That's another thing I hate about the sport. The win-lose bonus. I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
I think you should get played. I think you should. It's not like no one is trying harder because you're going to get your win bonus. You're trying to fucking win. You're in a goddamn cage fight. I don't think it incentivizes. And I think with the judging is so erratic. Like sometimes they're so wrong.
The MMA world has been simmering with tension for years. Whispers echoing through gyms, locker rooms, press conferences, and podcasts about something everyone sensed but no one inside the machine would admit, until the pressure became too loud, too undeniable, and too humiliating for the UFC to ignore. And that is why Joe Rogan's remarks on fighter pay sent shockwave through the sport. Rogan didn't deliver his words with outrage or theatrics, but with a cold, clinical honesty that cut deeper than any rant could, exposing a reality even he, long a staunch defender of the organization he has worked for since MMA's earliest days, could no longer ignore. The risks fighters take far outweigh the compensation they receive, and the sport has outgrown the model that carried it from 2005 to 2020. This revelation didn't explode because of a current superstar demanding more money or a champion refusing to fight. It was the cumulative pressure of a new generation of fans witnessing the Francis Ngannou saga, Jake Paul's crusade highlighting pay disparities, Conor McGregor's business empire, fighters speaking openly on podcasts, and an endless stream of injuries suffered by athletes who leave with less than a water boy in the NFL, all of which force questions the UFC never wanted asked. Rogan, willingly or not, became the center of that storm, articulating what fighters have been saying for a decade. The pay structure is outdated, the risks are immense, and the system no longer reflects the value these athletes bring, a statement that sounded less like activism and more like undeniable reality. The timeline of this tension goes back even further, as fighter pay has never truly been hidden, only tolerated until it became impossible to ignore. From Francis Ngannou leaving the UFC not over ego or opponents, but for long-term security and fair compensation, to Jake Paul igniting global debate by publicly comparing UFC pay to boxing purses, to Israel Adesanya adding his voice as a generational superstar demanding moral and financial accountability. The landscape has shifted permanently. Over the last 2 years, the desperation among fighters has become undeniable. Athletes working construction jobs during training, champions pleading for pay-per-view points that become worthless under new subscription models, and stories of sacrifice that lay bare a system built on the physical toll of fighters while the corporate empire profits, a reality Rogan finally made impossible to ignore, shining a spotlight on the undeniable truth that MMA is a sport sustained by underpaid fighters, risking everything, and the world can no longer look away.
ONE FC, like, how do they pay over there?
They pay good.
Is it comparable to the UFC? Is it better?
Everybody's contract is different. Everybody's contract is different. I'm happy. I'm very happy where I'm getting, but everybody's totally different.
Do you
I don't like arguing, right? I don't like I remember when I fought what was it? Like I remember when I fought Chris Carriasso, I made I don't know. Let's say I made $150,000, right? And then I'll fight the next challenger, Kyoji Horiguchi, I would make less money, right? And I'm like, how the fuck is this? Because you always get your show and your win. Excuse me, your show and win, right?
Right.
Your show might be $150K, and your win's $50,000 bonus. Typically goes up by escalator of $3,000, $10,000, $15,000. It all depends, right? But then when I fought Chris Carriasso, I made, let's say $150,000, and then when I fought Kyoji Horiguchi, I made less. The only way things are ever going to change is if athletes say, "No, I ain't gonna do that." Fuck that.
Yeah, they're not gonna do that.
And I think the reason why they're not is because, for me, coming from a background where I was making $10.76 an hour, working 40 hours a week, and I get the opportunity to go to Vegas and fight and make, at the time, 5 and 5, 10 G's. I think there's always going to be somebody out there willing to fight for cheaper. And then there was a point in time, Rich Franklin, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Matt Hughes, those guys were bigger than the sport of mixed martial arts. They were bigger than the UFC. But now, they don't really get behind any athletes to promote those athletes because we don't want the athlete to be bigger than the product itself. We want the product to be as big as possible. That way, the brand is still strong, not the athletes, because athletes come and go.
Let's look at CM Punk. CM Punk.
This guy comes in and gets a base salary of $500,000. There are also potential pay-per-view bonuses and other financial incentives included in his contract. I had to defend the belt 8 times. I couldn't even get this. That's what I wanted. Right here. Give me that 500 bones. Plus pay-per-view.
The reality of MMA fighter pay goes far beyond simple numbers. As Joe Rogan highlighted, a system where athletes take short notice fights just to pay rent. Veterans suffer career-ending injuries with nothing but medical bills and memories, and the structure hasn't been updated to match the sport's massive success. A statement that sent shockwave through social media, not as criticism, but as a warning. Fighters like Tom Aspinall, who saved multiple events, took dangerous short-notice bouts, rose rapidly in the heavyweight division only to suffer devastating injuries and then face public smear campaigns calling him a quitter, exemplify the human cost behind the statistics, risking vision, health, and future for earnings that often pale in comparison to mid-level tech employees. While the UFC signs billion-dollar broadcast deals and grows faster than ever with little change to fighter pay, creating an imbalance that fuels contract disputes, walkouts, and defections to rival organizations. Rogan's words, though restrained, ignited the community to connect the dots he couldn't say aloud, recalling past controversies like the class action settlement that compensated over 1,000 fighters for alleged pay suppression, Rampage Jackson and Anderson Silva's legal victories, and linking them to current scandals such as the Isaac Dolgarian betting controversy, where underpaid fighters were allegedly approached to manipulate outcomes, all forming an ecosystem where financial pressure makes athletes vulnerable. Fans also tied Rogan's statement to the modern landscape, from rising superstars to Conor McGregor, who leveraged fame outside the cage to become the UFC's wealthiest fighter, exposing the contradictions in a system that profits immensely while those risking their bodies earn far less than they deserve, making Rogan's calm acknowledgement that fighters don't get paid enough for what they do not just commentary, but a confirmation that the sport is facing a financial and ethical crisis that can no longer be ignored.
He pays its fighters 15% of the revenue, whereas in the NFL it's 50-50, in the NBA it's 50-50. So they're basically hoarding extra 35% themselves.
That's tough to defend.
Also, it's funny because that includes Conor McGregor. So like if you got rid of Conor McGregor, it's really like they're actually only giving him like 10%.
When I first made my first money, I think that's like the thing about fighters. We're more famous than we are rich. So we got more followers than we have dollars. So people are looking at us like we go out with our friends are like, Bill comes and they're looking at you, hey man, like ain't you one like, so like you gotta really at a young age I saw that like, all right, I can't pay for every bill, I can't be a savior for everybody. Like I did buy my mom a house, you know, I had my brothers out and all that, but I learned how to say no. I would say when fighters can know how to say no, it changes you as a person.
You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad. Go start another MMA organization and you go fucking figure out how to do it, and you can pay them 10 million a fight, 30 million a fight, whatever you want to do. We run a business. We've been very good at it. Not only do we run the business, we continue to grow the sport and take everybody along with us. You're either fucking good enough to be here or you're not. This is the big leagues. It's like the NFL. You can either last here or you can't last here. But people get paid.
What did Sugar Sean make for his last fight?
Not as much as he's worth.
Okay.
I know that for sure. Basically, the only person who's, you know, paid what they're worth in the UFC is McGregor.
We offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. More than Lesnar, more than anybody. And he turned the deal down. I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. Feels like he's in a good position where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. So we're gonna let him do that. We're gonna release him from his contract. We're gonna give up our right to match, and he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants.
Conor McGregor became the poster child for what happens when a fighter escapes the UFC system and monetizes independently, showing the world that wealth and fame are possible outside the organization. But Rogan emphasized that this is an exception, not the rule. As for every McGregor, there are hundreds of fighters grinding in obscurity, earning $12,000 to show and $12,000 to win, only to see it vanish into travel, camp fees, medical bills, management cuts, and taxes before rent is even paid. Rogan highlighted this reality with decades of first-hand observation, pointing to Tom Aspinall as an example of a heavyweight who consistently delivers, saves cards, respects the sport, and supports the company, yet suffers a dangerous eye injury and is publicly ridiculed by fans and mocked by peers, illustrating how the system exploits athletes who risk everything for entertainment. A point reinforced by the story of Francis Ngannou, who demanded fair contracts, long-term protection, and guarantees, only to be ridiculed until he proved critics wrong by earning generational wealth in boxing, showing the inevitable consequence of a system that refuses to evolve. Rogan's message crystallized around the fact that the UFC is no longer a scrappy survival company but a global powerhouse closing billion-dollar media deals, capable of modernizing fighter compensation and economic structures. Yet for years it relied on silence. Fighters didn't unionize, didn't coordinate, didn't push back, until the Ngannou saga, class action lawsuit, Jake Paul's public calls for accountability, and modern champions demanding contractual clarity forced change. When Rogan finally spoke, the ripple effect